Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today we're doing our Week 4 recap, Bears versus the Buccaneers. First off, let me say it is very nice to have an afternoon game. The primetime games were cool, but that's a long night of trying to do all this after the game. So it's so nice to sit down, wake up, watch the Bears, knock this out, and have the rest of the day to do stuff. But also, let me say, the Bears won. Bear down, people. Let's start there. I know we get into a lot of stuff, and we definitely gonna get into some stuff today. But let's start there. The Bears won. Absolutely great win today. Taking number one in the North so far. Big thanks to that tie that the Vikings and Packers had. So anyway, all good news right there. Now, we got a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. So the overall story of this game, of course, if you look at the score, we started out, I would say, pretty hot, where we exposed a young secondary and kind of got in a groove offensively. And then defensively, it's been the same story where Khalil Mack has really set the tone and really made it difficult for teams to be able to account for everybody. And that, by in turn, allowed us to squat on some things as far as the secondary and really just kind of funnel the offense. There was a few big plays where they kind of caught us, but we really did a good job of bottling it up. And offense did what we've been waiting for them to do. They continued to put up points when they got on the field, not just keeping the drive alive, you know, not just getting yards, but actually putting up points. And yeah, it's not a game we've seen a lot, but it's one of those games we've seen in the NFL, a lot, where it's just, you know, the, ball starts rolling downhill and, you know, you get that avalanche effect. So anyway, that's what it was. Let's start with the defense, cause there's a lot to talk about with offense. Let's start with the defense. Defensively, I thought it was interesting, and I know this is going to be a tough conversation, especially after a game like today, but I still feel, and I'm not backing off my statement about our pass rush, and I said the same thing previously before, and again, you had the people say the exact same argument already debased, talking about, oh, look at the numbers. But anyway, my point being, looking at today, you saw a lot more games than, as far as defensive line, a lot more games and stunts, as they call them, than we've seen previously. Mac a lot of times did, go straight up rush, but there's a lot of times where we had him moved around. Fangio put him on the opposite side. Sometimes they'll put, they'll move different people. They'll put him and Floyd on the same side and then do a little loop and switch. There's a lot of different games and funky stunts to kind of get Mac in different positions. But a lot of times it'll end up having to suck up the offensive line and leaving somebody open on a different loop. And those are things you do when you aren't generating a straight up pass rush. That's just the facts. I mean, I'm happy we did what we did, and the coverage actually deserves a bigger shout out, because I would say more times than not when we got pressures because the coverage was holding up. And so, but you just look at the facts. You do those things when your straight up pass rush isn't working. And we haven't gone too blitz crazy, but I think using the stunts was a good way, because it uses Mac as a decoy, while also being the potential for him to wreck it. So like you'll see sometimes he'll dart inside on a stunt and they're not fast enough to get it, and he can blow up the play. So, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a win-win, because a good team could block it all, but those are the risk rewards you do when you do a defensive scheme like that. But there's times, like even that Deshaun Jackson play, that big play that they got, those are the times where your pass rush is stagnant, and that's what can happen. Like, we see these explosive plays, these chunk plays, whether it's the Bears or not, you can't get those plays on offense unless the defense is really not pass rushing and is giving you time. And so those are the things I just worry about when we're talking about good teams. And people talk about stats. I don't care. Do you want the rankings and the stats, or do you want to be able to perform when it's time to perform? You play different teams each week. You don't play the best teams each week. So the stats don't always say anything. So I'm talking about execution and thinking about teams like Aaron Rodgers, when you saw that even when you got pressure, the effects that could happen when you aren't constantly getting pressure or you don't have guys that can get off blocks. And Akeem Hicks showed a nice little Aaron Donald-like move, but we honestly haven't seen that a lot from him. He's of course a monster in the run game, and I definitely think he moves the pocket, but I would like to see more of what we saw in that quick sack he got earlier. Of course, he ended up getting put out the game, but those are the type of things I look for. Aaron Lynch, I'm not going to keep talking about it every week, but Aaron Lynch did not look good. And Floyd, still haven't seen him put together any moves too, so those are just disappointing to me. The rookie, Kevin Tolliver, undrafted for a reason. This is one that is a project that Vic Fangio obviously believes in, kept him on the team. Not only that, he's starting in place of the injured Prince. And so it's got to be a guy that they understand they got a hold of. And I've said before with him during the draft, not just his talent, but his attitude. He was such a diva and he really had a bad head on his shoulders at LSU. And so if Fangio felt like they could get the most out of him, if they tapped in to getting him right, then I'm down for it. He has size. He's not a burner, but he's got movement skills. He's very much in the mold of a Prince or a Kyle Fuller, not scared to come up and run, what have you. And I thought he looked a lot more professional than he did in LSU. Now, night and day, college, and then Vic Fangio defense. So they've trained him up. They're coaching him with the technique. I don't know. It's interesting to see going forward how much playing time he continues to get. But I think he's solid. I think he's not as good as Prince, of course, but I think that's his trajectory. He's as solid as those guys get. But overall, like I said, the secondary, I gotta give him a hand. I don't have all 22. We don't see all the angles, but I just know from the progression of a game that when we aren't getting off blocks for pressure and we still get sacks, that means the coverage is holding up. And like I said, we squeezed a lot down on their routes. Mike Evans isn't a burner per se. Deshaun can do some things, but we were able to squeeze down with those routes and just kind of keep it in front of us and let them take what was in front of us and then rally to it. And I think we did a good job. And then of course trying to disrupt the passer whenever we could. So overall, definitely liked our performance today from the defense. I'd probably give it an A. I have to sit here and grade it. Yeah, I like that first. So offense, here we go. The big question: what do you do when you call a player a bust or not an NFL quarterback, and then they come out and throw 6 touchdowns? But no, let me say, just like I would say previously to all those people calling Trubisky a bust, look, we still have to wait and see what he becomes. He can still be good. I'm going to say the same thing to the supporters today. Look, this doesn't make him elite. This doesn't make him anything else than what he wasn't last week. You gotta be able to take these things in stride. Do not be prisoners of the moment, fans. Don't be those type of fans. Be better Bears fans. That's what I like. I want better Bears fans. We cannot get into that sports prisoner of the moment thing. Just like last year, everybody's talking about last week, everyone's like put Chase Daniels in, and now Trubisky does that. Don't turn into look. And I'm not here to fight with anybody. You just gotta watch. It's week to week. Why did the Buffalo Bills blow out the Vikings? Vikings go and make a game with the LA Rams, one of the best team. And then the Packers turn around and shut out the Bills. It's week to week. You can't predict. This is why we play the game. If there was just looking at paper what it's going to be, then we wouldn't even need to play the game. But that's not how it works. So to sit here and with any confidence listening to these fans in the comments and on the radio and all that talk so vividly about how they know what Trubisky is, I just laugh. I'm sorry I laugh at you. Maybe he's going to end up being bad. Maybe he'll never have a game like this again. Maybe he'll end up being solid. Maybe he'll end up being great. Who knows? But all I know is you don't know it right now. As a draft evaluator and stuff, even still, a lot of draft guys try to tell people it's not our job to tell you what this kid is going to be. It's our job to tell you what type of prospect they are and basically what skills they have, what weaknesses they have, what parts can get better and what type of system would fit to maximize their potential. That's what we do as evaluators in the draft. And so some people get caught up in just labeling people, oh, he's this, he's going to be this, and that's the end of the story. That's not how, as we know in NFL history, that's not how it goes. Otherwise, every first round pick would be good, yada, yada. It's too many factors. And so some people that sit here in the NFL and watch players and vividly just say, this is what they are. You don't know. Even if you evaluating, you don't know because it all depends on too many other factors. It's not black and white. It's not just this player. It's not just good or bad. It's too many other factors. And so while he could come out and look like that last week, Trubisky could come out and throw 6 touchdowns this week. The fact is, it's not just because of him. It's because of a lot of different factors. But anyway, we'll get to Trubisky in a little bit. Did anybody notice that Eric Kush and James Daniels were switching off every series? I was sitting there once, it was the second touchdown that we threw, or our second touchdown drive. And I noticed that drive, I'm like, James Daniels is in, and he was doing good. That, one play, the Trubisky, I think it was the Trubisky read option. It was one play we had, that was to the outside. I think it was the Trubisky read option, but James Daniels was the one that sealed off the end on that one beautifully. James Daniels looks so good. For the life of me, I don't understand why he's not starting. But anyway, so next series, Kush was in. I was like, okay, maybe Kush was hurt. But then the next series, James Daniels was in and it just kept flipping back and forth. And I was like, that's interesting because we weren't blowing them out when James Daniels came in. He came in when we were up 7-0. So it wasn't like, okay, we're blowing them out. Let's start trying James Daniels. It seems like they came in with the game plan of switching James Daniels and Eric Kush every series like a preseason game. And that's weird to me. I mean, it says obviously that they're thinking about it. They like the way James probably looks in practice. They want to figure out where to best put him in. Where can they, start to evaluate? And of course, out of our line, left guard probably is the most open out of the interior. So that's what it says to me. The fact they did it in the middle of a regular season game is very interesting. I'll say that. But if anybody that paid attention, I mean, we put up the points, so it didn't probably look like, oh, there was a big difference. And I honestly said Kush and them did pretty decent, but I think James just has more power. You got a guy like Vita Vea came in for a little bit, and he's going to be real good, by the way. Like, he might not get the pass rush, but man, you can't move him off the line. He could really wreck a run game. But I think you see James Daniels is just better with double teams. He's got movement. He's got more power. I just think it's a no-brainer that he starts. But anyway, it's interesting to point out that they were rotating those two. Tariq Cohen, man, we talked about this a little bit last week where I'm just like, Jordan Howard doesn't fit the type of scheme we're using. And I think that was pretty evident today. We saw Tariq Cohen go absolutely nuts with the usage numbers. I mean, of course he had big plays too. I'm not going to say he didn't produce, but just the usage numbers alone versus Jordan Howard is eye-opening. When Jordan Howard's the Pro Bowler, the second in the league in rushing, yada, yada, 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. Everybody's like, Jordan Howard's the guy, and he's catching passes this year. It's looking good. It started out even. It started tipping a little more to Tariq, and now at this point, it's just full Tariq Cohen show. And I think he is the offensive focus because he can do so many things, and it's hard to ignore that. I mean, he's lining up in a bunch of different places. Some people say he's Tyreek Hill. He's not Tyreek. He's the inverse of Tyreek Hill, where Tyreek jets motions and gets in the backfield sometimes, but makes his money down the field. It's the reverse, with Tariq, where he lines up sometimes and goes down the field, but he makes his money in the backfield and doing jets and screens and all that. So, but he's a weapon and he's the focus, because you saw that when Josh Bellamy got that touchdown, it was because everybody was so focused on Tariq Cohen. And so when he gets going and you can do so many things with him, it then sets up the situation where you can use him as a decoy and then make another big play off of that. So Tariq Cohen versus Jordan Howard, that's going to be the interesting usage to look at. And Jordan seemed like he was definitely into the win today, but I wonder kind of how long he'll play along with this dynamic. So that'll be interesting to watch. And I wouldn't say I ever said Tariq Cohen wasn't good. I'll put my hand up saying that it was a question mark. We didn't know what Nagy was going to do and how he was going to do it. I just was going off last year. Like, if that's what we're looking at, then Tariq Cohen's not going to be, that great of a weapon. But then you turn around and now it's the reverse, where Jordan Howard doesn't look like that great a weapon because the system is completely opposite and it's better for Cohen. And so, interesting that way. I still don't think Cohen is an in-betweener run tackler. We do a lot of movement, a lot of perimeter stuff, and he's good with that. So that's fine. He's not the same back Howard is. I think this is what we talk about with factors. The scheme matters so much because in this scheme, Cohen's a totally different value than he was in the last scheme. So there you go. And I got shout out to Matt Nagy. I think even though I get worried about him being too cute sometimes, especially at the wrong time, like that 2 quarterback play. And I'm not going to lie. I said, thank God we got a penalty. He being too cute. We don't need to do all that. And then he came back and did it again and ended up scoring. Now, I don't know if it was the same play. I'm sure he has multiple plays out of that formation. So we don't know if that was going to be the same play earlier. Even if it was, we don't know if it would have scored. But at the time, I was happy the penalty came in. We didn't do that play because I'm like, let's not be cute. Let's just pass the ball. But they come and do it later. Ends up working. And that time though, I'm more okay with it because we're even further ahead and we're past that tipping point. It was just the timing of it earlier I didn't like, but when we did it later in the game, I'm like, okay, we're pretty much wrapping this up. So go ahead, try it out. And it's clear Matt Nagy is not scared to try things out during games. So that's kind of where we are. But I gotta say Nagy, man, or Nagy, I can't remember how they want to pronounce it, but his play calling did this today for Trubisky. Let's start there. I talk about prescribed plays and how those are better. And then people talk about how this week there was this emphasis on shortening the playbook and focusing more on a smaller package of plays. And I tell you, it's easier for the quarterback when he knows where to look, especially a quarterback that isn't reading well. And so you look at most of the touchdowns and you understand they are set up to be that way. Tariq Cohen on the angle route, everything in that play was set up to open that up. The way they released up the field, across the field to spread out the defenders, and he as the third receiver comes across where the vacation is, where they vacate the area. And so that was a complete, old school Texas angle route set up for Tariq Cohen against a linebacker. You look at the touchdown again with Bellamy where they set up the fake with Cohen to suck him up and leaving Bellamy wide open. And I would say it was an amazing throw to Allen Robinson, but with the inside release against that nickel, the rookie, that was set up to go to him. And that's fine. You still got to make the throw. And so I'm glad, Trubisky was out here doing that. But as far as taking part of the process out of it for him, that's when he does the best. And that's what you saw today. I mean, the times when he has to sit and make a decision, it's not always the same result, But this is and it's fine because you can do that. This is what I talked about with Deshaun Watson last year. Everybody went crazy and still debating me about Deshaun Watson. Like, he was just so great. I'm like, watch his first game. He was terrible. And the reason he was better is because Bill O'Brien said, okay, instead of running our stuff and forcing you to figure it out, let's give you a package that fits better to what you do and takes the decision making out of it and utilizes everything with the read option fakes, have people worried about you running, have people worried about screens, make it easier for you so you can make an easy decision. And that's what we did with Trubisky today. And that's what I expected, honestly, because not only the play calling and the play creation of Nagy, which really opens up the crossers and the deep zones and really plays to the strengths of what we got. Also with the talent, we got the quicker guys. We got the route runners. We got people that can get down the field into open space. And that is where I expected Nagy to really open this thing up, because it's one thing to design the play, but if you got big boy receivers and you got a core that isn't going to, get down the field, then it won't matter, but we do. And so this is what I've been waiting to see, where you got the play actions, you come back, you roll around, bootleg, and there's crossers and deep zones, high-low concepts where you saw linebackers being stressed, whether they're going to come up or push back in zone. And that's the stuff you want. Things that attack the seam against single high. I think the play calling was great. Play creation was great. They knew what they had to attack what the Buccaneers were showing them. And I absolutely loved it. And I think that was the biggest key in Trubisky doing what he did today. Now shout out to the offensive line. People got to give credit to Leno. Let's say this. Massey was okay, and he probably struggled the most. But even then, overall, Trubisky had plenty of time. And you gotta give it to Charles Leno. The thing with the offensive line, like we say, is if they don't know your name, that's good. Cause the only time they talk about offensive line is when they mess up. But of course, we know with Pro Bowls and, blah, 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 people know some offensive linemen more than others. And so Charles Leno, people know him when we talk about him because we're always talking about something bad. But when he has solid games, no one wants to say anything. And JPP had a sack earlier, but really that was more Trubisky, which was scrambling out into the sack. You gotta sit here and give Leno credit for as much crap as people talk about and getting new tackles and replacing them. Leno has been decent, and he's been decent a lot. And I've always said that he's probably a solid C+ tackle. And people in today's age, oh, he's not an A? Well, he sucks. Oh, he must be an F. That's not how it works. C+ is not bad. Above average is not bad. Above average means that yes, you're going to have bad plays, but for the most of the time, you're going to do your job. And that's not a bad thing. And so Trubisky doing what he did today, and not even the touchdowns, a lot of the chunk plays. We kind of copied, Arizona's route where, Trey Burton early on went to kind of like a crossing route and then bended it back to a corner. That's exactly what Ricky Seals did to us last week against Arizona. But anyway, so we used that play. That stuff takes time. You need time to make that type of pass. And so as much crap as people were talking about these tackles, y'all have to give them credit. And the Bucks, this was what I was worried about. I'm like, you know what? The D-line I'm worried about. The secondary, I didn't even know they had all those young players starting, but I knew that secondary wasn't, the best. And so I'm like, those I'm not as worried about. I'm worried about the D-line. Can we hold up and keep the pressure away from Trubisky with JPP, Gerald McCoy, all those guys? And we did an excellent job. And I think those guys need to be recognized. So kind of wrapping up with Trubisky. To me, the conversation hasn't changed. I think it's going to be a big swing. Now all the supporters are going to feel bold and they want to talk crap and say, we told you so. And, the haters are going to try to fight them. The rhetoric is going to go back and forth. But for me, it's still the same thing. As I've been saying, we got to continue to watch. And for me, it's more about how you do it than what you do. And I keep saying that because that dictates what future success is going to be. People want to look at numbers, say 6 touchdowns that must mean he's great. It's not how it works. How did you get those 6 touchdowns? And for me, if you ask my personal opinion, I'm still waiting for the moment where Trubisky is making these options on them or decisions on his own, because you're not going to go far. Deshaun Watson, I mean, the Mariotas, a lot of these guys, they're not going to go far when the coach is having to make decisions for you. You can do numbers, you can execute well, but how you do it is always important. And so when we talk about quarterbacks that take it to the next level, even the young one, Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, you want to look at them. You get moved along a little bit by the coach, but eventually they got to put it in your hands where you can do those veteran things, make decisions, look off safeties. You know where to go when it's trouble. And those are the things that make a great quarterback. And so Trubisky by no means is there yet. I don't think he would say that. I don't think Nagy would say that. He's not there yet. But I think this goes a long way in his confidence and for people to understand that he can't play. Like, it's so stupid to me. This is why I get mad when people talk about bust. Bust means you cannot play football. To me, it could be different for you, but for me, it means you can't play football. And when people sit here and say, you're not an NFL player, he's a bust, yada, yada. And then how many times have we seen a player go to a different team later in their career and blow up and become great? Or we see great players go to a different team in their career and suck. It's not about these guys can't play football. Most of these guys, they couldn't athletically play football, they wouldn't be here. Trubisky has great tools. It's about getting those tools in the right fit. And so the conversation about bust, the conversation about Trubisky, the conversation about progression, it's all been the same for me. It's all the same things I've been talking about. It's all about the factors around it. It's not just the player. And so there we are with that. Offense, gotta give him an A+. Gotta give him an A+. Regardless of how and where we executed, good stuff. Like I said, offense line did good. Cohen did good. I think a lot. Kevin White out there blocking. I mean, it'd be sad if all of this was just leading up to him being a really good situational blocker, but he is a good situational blocker. We got to give him credit for that. But yeah, I thought it was just a contribution from a lot of different people. So as far as special teams, we really didn't have to punt that much. I think it was like 2-3 times we had to punt. Cohen, like I said, has established himself as a great returner. Yeah, it wasn't a lot of action. So, thought that was fine. Going forward, it's really the same questions. It's always been the same questions. It's been the same questions for me all year. But I like what we're doing. I like what Nagy's doing. I think he's getting in the rhythm, not just the play calling, but like the play creations, how we attack coverages are the type of, ways that I like, with heavy flutters and zone crossers. I like that rather than a straight vertical, offense. That's not my style. So I like the way we do that, but even with the hard count, switching up the hard count to get like 3 offside penalties, a lot of different things. I like the way Nagy's getting into a groove with it. Time management, I'm still questionable about, but hey, it's fine. And then defensively, I think we're really coming and my bad for not shouting out Eddie Jackson. I've been shouting him out every week. I said before the season what I want to see, and I've been seeing it, and he's getting confident. And I think that's one of the virtues about an Alabama player. Even though he was nothing good as a prospect to me as far as his floor, you knew that with a lot of talent and with the right work ethic and football mindset that he could be coached the right way, and he would listen to that coaching. And so I think that's one of the virtues of having Alabama players, and he's really taking that coaching and starting to turn it up. So anyway, that's it for me. Go to comment section. Let me know what you thought about today's game. I'm sure this is going to be a lot about Trubisky. But share the convo around, get the convo started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.